Hello fellow Create and Code members, my name is Philip Bailey and I would like to take a few minutes of your time to discuss the emerging technology known as responsive web design. In my presentation today, I will go over what responsive web design is, how you go about implementing responsive web design, why you'd possibly want to implement responsive web design, and when would be a good time to go through with that implementation. In this quote, Jeff Ravine does a great job of summing up exactly what responsive web design is. Responsive web design allows us to account for the ever-growing number of devices and formats that consumers use on a daily basis. In traditional web design, a new page must be created for each targeted device or screen size. Understandably, this can get unwieldy over time. It would be much more preferable to have a page that can dynamically change to suit whatever format is being used to view the content. Responsive web design delivers this flexibility. This further ensures that your users have a more pleasurable experience on your site and drives conversions, which will allow you to be more profitable. Now that you know what responsive web design is, let's look at how it's implemented. Responsive web design is made up of three components: media queries and listeners, flexible grid-based layouts, and flexible images and media. Media queries are a technology found in CSS3 and HTML5. They give the developer a lot of power in that they allow you to target a specific screen size or media type. They also allow for the use of conditional operators. When used in combination, they allow for the delivery of a user experience tailored to the size of the device being used to view the content. The difference between this approach and that of traditional web design is that each of these possible experiences is still coming from a single page. In traditional design, each of the targeted formats would have a separate page of its own. Media query listeners allow the designer to control the download of content based on the type of format the consumer is using. This helps to avoid slow load speeds caused by the download of unused content. The second component of responsive web design is the use of flexible grid-based layouts. These layouts shift dynamically in response to the size of the screen on which the page is being presented. They're achieved through layouts and attributes that are available in the CSS3 specification. The specification has attributes such as max device width and max device height that allow for the dynamic sizing of page content. CSS also allows for the use of relative units, which provide additional flexibility by letting a component's location be determined in relation to the components around it, rather than being stuck in an absolute position. In addition to allowing for the dynamic resizing of a site's layout, CSS3 and HTML5 provide the ability to dynamically resize media content as well. This is the third and final component of responsive web design. The specifications give the designer the ability to either provide media scaled to the user's device format or to scale the media on the fly. For instance, a designer may choose to display a large filler image on the desktop version of a site, but leave it out on the mobile version where real estate is more scarce. So far we've covered the what and how, but at this point you may be wondering why you should care about this technology. How does it benefit you or your organization? The first major benefit is the reduction of long-term maintenance costs. Responsive web design removes the need for maintaining a different copy of your page for each device format. This translates directly into reduced costs. The next benefit is control over content sharing mechanisms. In the traditional scenario, a user on your mobile site may choose to share your content with a friend or colleague. The link sent to the recipient is not context aware, however. If they were to open this link on a different device, they could end up viewing a version of the page that is not optimized for that device. Such a poor user experience could lead to lost potential. According to a poll conducted by Google, 67% of those polled said they were more likely to buy a product or use a service if a site is mobile friendly. Another 50% said they will use a business less often if the website isn't mobile friendly. And yet another 48% said they felt as if a company didn't care about their business if their site doesn't work well on a smartphone. These numbers clearly indicate the importance of a positive mobile experience. Responsive web design is the powerful, flexible technology that can help you deliver that experience to your users. This, in turn, will drive conversions and increase your site's profitability. As with every technology, responsive web design is not without its flaws. The upfront costs could be considerable. Existing sites would have to be consolidated and converted. Additionally, developers that are not trained in the use of responsive web design technologies would have to be trained before they could execute their duties properly. Depending on how many of them require training, existing development could be significantly impacted. Another concern is that a poor implementation could lead to longer load times rather than reduced load times. And finally, Internet Explorer 8 and older is not compatible with responsive web design technologies. If your user base is expected to rely heavily on the use of these versions of Internet Explorer, it would be unwise to proceed with responsive web design. So at this point we have discussed the what, how, and why of responsive web design. If you've decided that the use of responsive web design could benefit you or your organization, the final question to be answered is when should you aim to implement the technology? The answer to that question is as soon as possible. Mobile web traffic is increasing at a staggering rate. According to a study conducted by Morgan Stanley Research, the number of mobile users is expected to overtake the number of desktop users by the end of 2014. Additionally, internet traffic over a mobile device has already overtaken traffic on a desktop device in India and China, the two most populous countries in the world. This means that if you aren't already providing an enjoyable user experience for consumers using a mobile device, your bottom line is most likely being affected already. If you are providing mobile optimized sites under the traditional web design paradigm, you're spending more than necessary to maintain your web presence. If either of these descriptions is applicable to your organization, I highly encourage you to look further into responsive web design as a solution to your problem. The resources listed here offer a great starting point. So, to conclude, we've discussed what responsive web design is and the problem it solves, the underlying technologies used to implement it, the benefits gained by adopting it, and the reasons not to wait to implement it. I hope you've enjoyed the presentation. Please let me know if you have any questions.